Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated. I'm inspired to write because of you. Well, I mean, not just because of you, but today I'm inspired to write because of you.
Is this? Should we be saving this for the podcast too, or are we doing it?
We are.
We're on.
We're
okay.
on, man. This is how we roll. With no intros. We don't do the intros.
That's
Danny
all right.
Bland is here.
He needs to know that.
Tour manager, poetic genius, novelist.
I hear that a bit. You know, like you inspired me to write.
Yeah.
I think it's like when someone makes it look easy, and they're like, "Oh shit,"
Yeah.
or it's more like, "Well, fuck, I can do that." So
Specifically, it's because I'm lost between like the desire to write a memoir and the desire to write something fictional. And listening to your book, I was just like, I'm writing something fictional. This is so much of a better way to go because it is clearly personal and not entirely fictional. And it's just like, it's so complicated when you try to write a memoir of like just memories and people, and it just involves real life characters. It's just
you gotta remember it first of all.
Yeah.
And I don't know you that well, but I bet you have. Some issues with memories of certain parts of your life.
Stop right there. Some issues, period.
But so yeah, and then you have to involve other people,
Right.
So not being a snitch is important. So I figured, I'll snitch on myself as much as I choose in this book,
Right.
And then I'll take all the other characters and I'll compile people so they're not sure exactly who I'm snitching on. So even
Right.
people who I do
Snitch
on, and I know the ones that are still alive.
Yeah.
I'm still friends with them, so they know who they are, and I check, I make sure that no one's gonna go to jail for the things I said.
Right. Yeah, because I don't know. I have written like 1,000 pages attempting a memoir before, and it's just a mess of something I can't think about publishing. Really.
People like Lanigan's memoir.
Yeah.
Excellent. And I don't know. I don't know if there's any legal hassles to be had, but certainly some musicians were angered by it. I mean,
Liam Gallagher.
who gives a crap, of course.
Liam Gallagher came after him on Twitter or something. They had a Twitter war.
Yeah,
Lanigan?
which is probably
Yeah, Liam put out like an actual like shut up or put up to Lanigan after the book came out.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, that's the kind of
But
press.
Mark was
That's
going
kind of the
off-
press you
Mark
want.
was going
Exactly.
off on him too.
And that's the kind of boxing match we want to see.
Yes.
Exactly. I hope they do it.
It's too late now.
Well, Lanigan, I guess he moved to Ireland.
I think he's ultimately going to go to Portugal.
Oh, is that
but
right?
he's in Ireland right now.
And I was talking to Greg today, and he, because I'm interviewing you, and I was
Right.
like, hey, I'm interviewing Danny Bland tonight. He goes, ask him about the Beatles. What does that mean? I didn't even ask him what that means. I just said, okay.
Well, I don't like the Beatles.
I you know what? I kind of had an assumption that that's where this was going to go.
And that's not even an interesting tidbit, because a lot
Right.
of people don't.
Not a lot, but there are a few.
I never even bring it up anymore because because people really want to argue. People are passionate about it. I'm not.
Right.
Like my dislike for the Beatles is not a passionate thing. It's just
so extreme. It's not even passionate.
No, that's the thing. It's like I can't get passionate about it. I can't understand why they're touted as such a great thing. I mean, but but mostly these days, I don't bring it up because it's just the most honky thing to do in 2021 is to discuss the Beatles.
Right.
Like I can't even stomach it anymore.
I can't believe you just referenced 2021 so casually.
Just
like that.
barely.
Like
Just
you're already there. It's like in 2021.
I caught myself.
First podcast of the year.
And
Congratulations.
By the way, that's John Lennon in a mask.
Sure is.
So there you go.
I
So we are Beatles fans here, but you're still welcome.
well, and again, like
we'll just forward the hate mail to Danny.
do that. Do it. I won't read it either. It'll be great. But I have never. I had to the point where like I didn't grow up in like a musical family, and like my dad listened to country radio, and we didn't even have a stereo until I bought my own when I was a teenager. So we had like Glenn Campbell records laying around and all that stuff. So I had never even heard an entire Beatles song in my life. Quick to turn the station, quick to leave the wedding reception, quick to leave the casino or wherever I am whenever they start one. So I've never heard one in its completion.
Still?
Are
you kidding?
And so this
Wait till McCartney takes him on as tour manager.
this drives
People insane.
This drives duly insane. And
Right.
so I can't even remember where we were somewhere on tour. I think we were in a European country. And I'm sitting in the dressing room doing something. And then I look up and he's charging at me, holding his laptop open with something playing.
Yeah.
And it falls on top of me. And all of a sudden it's over, and he says, "There, you've heard a Beatles song." And I'm
Wow,
like,
that's
no,
funny.
I didn't hear anything except for me screaming, glass falling all over the place, and then him sitting on top of me forced me to listen to this, something that was really short, I assume, but I didn't actually hear it. So,
Well, are you a Rolling Stones guy?
that's exactly why,
Yeah.
because I have this.
Affinity for the Stones.
No, it's more of a gang affiliation thing. Like I feel like you can only be one or the other. It's extreme and it's ridiculous.
I agree with that.
No, I
I'm
disagree.
not a Stones guy. Can't stand him.
Are you kidding? I'm
not kidding. I'm serious.
I'm both.
Yeah,
I go both ways.
that's understood. But so I have like, and it's more than just Beatles and Stones. But I have like I feel like you choose your gang and you should stick with them, and so it's a gang affiliation thing. I'm the same way with the Munsters and the Addams Family.
Right.
I'm the same way with
Which one do you like?
Addams Family. Of
I'm
course.
Munsters.
See,
I don't know the
And
Munsters.
I'm not trying to be disagreeable. I just am. That's the one I think of. Is
well, and to take it even a step further, like I just wrote, speaking of writing, I just wrote an article about this compatibility quiz that I figured out over the years
for relationships.
for a relationship. Yeah, it's for couples. So if you meet someone in a bar,
I need this.
it's easy. I'll just run it down for you right now.
Okay, good.
So you meet somebody, and of course this would be in a post-COVID situation. Say you meet a nice lady or fella or whatever you're looking for in a laundromat or at a bar, and you want to cut through all the conversation. You want before you start the conversation, you want to get a few facts. So the quiz is 3 questions. They're either or. You can't say both, and you can't refuse to answer a question.
I love this. This is perfect.
And the first question is, first of all, the questions appear to be just corny popular culture questions. But in fact, there's a deeper meaning revealed in all of them, which we'll discuss after you take the quiz.
Okay.
So the first question is Beatles or the Stones?
That's tough for me.
Beatles.
I'm going Stones.
I had a feeling that you were going to answer that.
I have to. I mean,
Okay.
I love the Beatles, though. Love, but I got to go Stones.
And the second question is Morticia and Gomez or Herman and Lily?
I'm going Herman and Lily.
Okay.
I don't know Herman and Lily.
That's the Munsters.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Addams Family.
And then the third question is Cowboys or Indians?
Indians.
Okay. Now we'll discuss what each question means. Okay. So
What are you going, Cowboys or Indians?
I always loved The Last of the Mohicans for some reason, and I like the Indian aspect of it, so I would go
You're going
Indian.
Indians.
Okay. So the first question, it's not a musical taste question at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sexual compatibility question.
Wow.
So if you're lucky enough to receive the Stones as your answer, then you're about to experience a primal, evil, hair pulling, back scratching, neighbor annoying, probably maybe the authorities being called at the end of the evening sort of experience, because that's what the music. You answer this question, whether you know it or not. You answer this question with your crotch, not with your brain, and so that's what you're about to experience. Now, if you get the Beatles as your answer, then it's like, I don't know, butterfly kisses and hand holding or some shit like that. I don't know, because I would never do
I
such
have
a
a question.
Wait, let's get to the...
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Let him go.
When you say you get the Stones, does the answer need to match what you think? Like, if in my mind I'm Stones and then she answers Stones, then it's what you're saying. But if in my mind I'm Beatles and she's Beatles, then...
Then, like I said, then you get some butterfly kisses, some hand holding. I'm sure it's really sweet and all.
Right.
And I'm
It's
sure
still nice.
Yeah, it's good. I'm not saying it's a wrong answer. I'm just saying. I'm just saying it's not what I'm looking for.
Right.
Now, the second question, although it appears to be like, because they were the two shows, the Munsters and the Addams Family, were rival shows going on at the same time,
Right.
back in the 60s. But that's a relationship question.
Right.
Because Morticia and Gomez had this, like, they were partners. They had, theirs was a passionate affair, even though they were married and they had children. Theirs was a passionate affair that, there was a certain equality to what was going on. They worked together. Now you have Herman and Lily. That's an unfortunate sort of template of the lovable lummox being married to the impossibly beautiful woman who just basically cleans up after all of his mistakes. And it's a template that's been used over and over again to this very day. Like, it's what sitcom couples are. They're more Herman and Lily and less Morticia and Gomez. And that's unfortunate, I think.
I just never really watched any Addams Family, so my memory only goes to the Munsters, because I do remember watching reruns of that.
And these questions are really only for older people,
Older
right?
people, right? Like, I was just thinking that.
And that's another thing. If someone doesn't know who the Addams Family or the Munsters are, or they don't recognize those names, then you probably shouldn't be talking to them anymore.
That's probably true. Now you tell me.
And the third question is a morality question. And if you chose Cowboys, then I just don't know what to say to you. I mean, you're an amoral fuck, right?
Yeah.
You went with Cowboys, right?
No,
I went with
Indians.
Indians.
We all went with Indians.
Thank God. Thank God I was close. I was close to saying Cowboys.
You kind of don't want to think about these. You don't want to think about these questions too much either, because you could psych yourself out of your gut instinct, and that's what we're going for. Like, I'm trying to, in 3 questions, I'm trying to dissect your core to see if I still want to be your friend.
Yeah. How did you come up with this?
Years and years of research.
Yeah. Where'd you write the Where'd you write the article?
I just wrote it for a lit magazine that my friends in Tucson, Brian Smith and his wife Maggie, are putting out, and I don't know the title of it.
Oh, okay.
But I'll
Shout out
Send
Brian
you a
and
link.
Maggie.
Send me a link. I would love to read that.
It's basically what I just told you, but in 1,000-word form.
So do you write every day, basically, or what's your writing schedule like?
No, I don't really. That's an odd question in pandemic times, right? Because you would think, and I think a lot of people are experiencing this, is that you would have all of a sudden it's like I have nothing to do. If you have a job like you and I have, where our job is to assemble large amount of people in small rooms, that you would have nothing but time for creative pursuits.
Right.
But for some reason, I think a lot of people just aren't, because we're just in an unknown, insane world where no one's quite comfortable with what's going on. So
Right, like a malaise.
yeah, and I haven't. Like back in March, I would have thought, well, if I knew that I wasn't going to be doing anything this long, but there's that constant not knowing what's ahead of us. It's our goddamn president. I'm so addicted to the America TV show in not missing a single minute of what's going on in the news and everything like that. It's hard to write, but and that's kind of how I started writing haiku, right? Because I finished when I was writing the novel In Case We Die, I was more driven to write it. Like my reasons were, it was more than just to write a book, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted this story to be told. I wanted it to be done. I wanted it to be out quickly, because I knew how short everyone's memories were. And if the story of In Case We Die seems to be my story, in fact it's not. It's more of Amy Ferris's story, and she passed away in 2010, and I wanted to write my story. I wanted to mix in her story, and I was driven to do it. So I wrote every single day, and I knew that I was on tour, so I had to write in hotels. I had to write backstage. I just made the time to put something on paper every day. I was driven to do that. When I finished the book and handed it off to nice editors and publishers, then all of a sudden I had nothing to do, and I hadn't, and I had withdrawals. So that's when I just started posting a haiku. There's a writer exercise where they write a haiku a day for a year, and I just started posting them on Facebook, but I didn't say, hey, I'm going to write hey guys, I'm about to write a haiku a day for a year. I just started putting them up there without explaining them, and they sound pretty insane if you don't realize, if you don't know it's a haiku. It took people a while to figure out that's what I was doing, and on Facebook in particular, I still have never really explained.
You don't put don't you put like haiku number 7 or something like that?
Now I do, yeah, but but it's been years. Like I set out to do it once, one a day for a year, and then 2.5 years later before I took a day off.
Wow.
And in that first 2.5 years are the ones that were put together for the book. I apologize in advance for the awful things I'm going to do that had the Greg Dooley photos.
Right.
So,
which, by the way, on Amazon is going for $900.
Oh,
that's wild. He said he told me he named your other the next one.
Yeah. I got the we shouldn't be doing this. I got that from a conversation with Greg too.
That's a good. He's good with the names.
Shout out Greg.
Shout out Greg.
Amen. But yeah, for $900, I saw. I think there's. I think on
hardcover, but you should just republish it. If there's that much of a demand, It's impossible to get anywhere.
Well, I think you can still find it in some stores, but on Amazon, once something goes out of print or comes close to being out of print, then they automatically they throw a couple up there for insane amounts of money. Like I saw the first time I saw one of those on Amazon, it was for $1,700.
That's crazy.
So now it's a steal, half price, $900.
But you can still find them around. I only have one, but they're around.
It's like, how did you stick to the discipline of haiku? You never wanted to like write longer poems, or you never did?
No, I mean, I don't even really know how I started with that. Like there's something about haiku that's punk rock for me. Like because you know, in the traditional like Ramones style punk rock song, there are rules. Like you can't write a song that's over 3 minutes long or 2 minutes long most of the time. Exactly. And there's something appealing to that about that to me. But then there's also the anarchy of what goes on inside of those syllables. Like you have 5 syllables, 7, and then 5 more. But within that structure, anything can happen. Like grammar be damned, subject matter be damned, and as long as you can form a cohesive thought,
right,
then all bets are off, and so that's appealing to me.
Those are the only rules, is the syllables.
Well, I mean, that would be
actual rules are different.
For your non-traditional ones, like if you're reading the traditional haiku discipline, then
seasons of the year.
There's something. There needs to be something about nature in there, and then or a word or a phrase that hints to what season it is.
Something like that.
Who made that shit up originally?
Some old Japanese guys.
Henry Haiku. Henry Haiku thought of it.
But it's so weird because it's this notion that there are rules, but there really are no rules.
Yeah.
Like you could just do that without calling it a haiku and just come up with your own rules.
Somewhere where along the line, I learned it the other way, which was the non-traditional way, and
those are your rules.
And those are the rules.
Right.
So what are you doing in New York?
I am here
because you live in Seattle, right?
I do. I'm here. Steve Earle and the band, who I've been tour managing, we just shot a segment for the Jimmy Kimmel Show.
Nice.
Yeah. So
over at City Winery.
Over at the City Winery.
I got an art show up right there. I don't know if you got a chance to see it, but on the second floor.
I knew that was you.
That's me.
I had to run up there to go yell at somebody.
Did you see it?
I did.
That's cool.
I saw it. I knew that.
Yeah, it was weird because obviously people don't come through town a lot, and we're limited to local guests, but I was filming that Steve
Is that
Earle
how I got
thing.
the gig?
Yeah, and then
no
Steve's manager was like, by the way, the tour manager is Danny Bland. I want to introduce you to him. Like, I know this motherfucker. And I was like, Danny, would you do the podcast? Because it's so rare that he's in town and not busy running artists all around because you're done with Steve, and then here you are.
Here I am.
Well,
in front of a picture of John Lennon.
Where did you grow up? In Phoenix?
Well, I'm a military brat. So and my mom's a Kiwi. So, like dad, when he was a youngster, had the job of guarding the American embassy in Wellington. So that's where they met. And I was born in South Carolina, in Beaufort, South Carolina. And then he ran off to fight in Vietnam. So we went back to New Zealand. So I lived all over the world, and eventually settling down in Phoenix to spend my formative years before moving to Seattle.
And what brought you to Seattle? Was it like the music scene or what?
I wanted to live in the opposite of Phoenix.
Right. Yeah, that would do it.
And really, I mean, the only thing I knew about Seattle music when I moved there was a band that I was playing in at the time called the Best Kissers in the World in Phoenix. We did a show with the Young Fresh Fellows.
Oh man, I'm in a band with Scott McCoy.
Really?
Yeah, Arthur Buck, my band with Peter Buck, and Scott plays bass in it. I went on tour with him last year.
Huh.
Yeah. Shout out Scott.
2 years ago now.
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Time is just a blur of nothingness now, dude.
But so yeah, that was the only band that was the only Seattle band besides like Heart, and I don't even think I knew what a Queensryche was at the time.
Oh
so.
my God, love Queensryche.
They're Seattle?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jeff Tate, Chris DeGarmo. Woo! Love Queensryche.
You ever watch that metal show with Eddie Trunk?
Yeah, I used to every now and then. Yeah,
It's a good one.
Eddie Trunk.
Anyway, Queensryche was on that. But
So yeah, when I moved to Seattle, it was really because I was on a tour with another band earlier on, and we played in Seattle like the first week of August, and I could wear my leather jacket, and I said, I'm going to live here one day.
just because you could wear a leather.
That was it.
Yeah. What year was that?
That would have been like 86. No, that would have been like 84. And by the time I moved to Seattle, it was like the summer of 87, I think.
Wow, and you've lived there ever since.
Yeah. Well, no, I think I had like I lived in Austin for a year and New Orleans in a year. I had my version of a midlife crisis like 10 years ago. I decided to just go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a midlife crisis in New Orleans, too.
It's a good place to have one.
Yeah.
But no, I think, yeah, I don't know. I got home. I can't remember who I was. I think I was out with the Gutter Twins actually at the time, and I got back to Seattle and just I was hardly ever home, and I was home, and I was just like, I just want to leave, and the places I thought would be good to live were Austin and New Orleans and New York, and like I knew somebody in Austin who had a room ready for me at the house. Mm-hmm. The rent was nothing, so I went. And then it was just so fucking hot. And then I moved to New Orleans, and it was still hot, but New Orleans isn't really America, so it makes more sense.
Yeah. It's a totally new world. It's a different place for sure. I loved it there.
Let's talk about your midlife crisis in New Orleans.
Well, I was there like early 2000s, and I was making a record actually with Mike Napolitano. I don't know. Do you know him?
Sure.
He just texted me today too, randomly out of the blue, like because he's sending me a book or something like that. But maybe it's your book. That would be weird. That would be like,
Yeah.
but
the $900.
so I lived over Checkpoint Charlie's on Decatur and Esplanade.
I went there when Dave Rosser lived there.
Yeah, I used to hang out there too. That's after I lived there. Then when Rosser took over the Nappy Dugout or whatever. And then Greg has the R Bar and all that.
Yeah.
That's have you ever stayed there?
Yep. Oh yeah.
That's a nice spot. And it was great, I made a couple good records there and almost bought a house, but then got out of a record deal and didn't buy the house.
So you stayed there that entire time? How long were you there?
That was a couple of days what he described.
No, like I guess like a little, like 6 months to a year or something like that, on and off, but in different times,
Yeah, I
wasn't really a midlife crisis, but
I
it was definitely a crisis.
I would love. I mean, I like the fact that I lived there. I think it would have been better if I just saved it for a place to visit, because it's nice to have a place to. I mean, people make that mistake, right? Like they go on vacation to Hawaii, and they decide they're going to live there. Mm-hmm. But then, where do you go for vacation after that? So I think that was my mistake. I should just save New Orleans for vacations.
So, do you have like any siblings?
I have a sister, a younger sister.
Yeah.
You hear that noise?
It's
the pipes.
The ghosts in the pipes it's for a minute, once an hour.
And are your folks still alive, or they go?
Mom's still alive. Dad passed away probably 20 years ago now. But my sister is a writer. She writes for the Arizona Republic. She's a journalist.
Oh, okay. And what'd they think of your book?
Mom, she said she liked it. She read it really fast at first because she was very concerned how it was going to turn out for me. Mm-hmm. But then she read it again slower, and she said I was a good writer when she read slower.
That's great. So she wasn't like traumatized by the content of it.
Well, that's another plus about writing it, as a fictionalized memoir, because I'll leave it up to her to guess what's true and what's not.
Right.
And I wouldn't ever answer that question. If someone picked out a particular incident and said, "Is this true?"
Right.
Then I wouldn't. But but for my mom, she still won't acknowledge that I have tattoos. So she doesn't see the things she doesn't want to see.
Right. That's funny. You went on the hands. Is that more recent? I feel like I saw an interview with you without on the hands, or has that been for a long time?
It's been probably at least 5 to 7 years, I think. It's been a while.
I want to do that.
No, you don't.
Yes, I do. It looks cool, I think.
I mean, once you get them on your hands, then
what's left?
Well, I mean, I guess.
Well, the face.
The mom in you would say, well, that's it. Like, you're not going to be able to get a real job now. It's like, well,
real jobs don't exist anymore.
And I'm 57 years old. I'm way past getting a real job.
That's funny. So, are you working on a follow-up novel, or do you think you're like one and done with that?
No, I am working on. I'm working on a sequel, in fact.
Right.
And even though as I was discussing the first part of the quarantine, first part of pandemic times, I didn't write shit. I have been working on that quite a bit in the last few months.
Yeah.
So I have no idea like if I'm halfway done or what. I haven't done a word count.
So you've been just doing the same thing, like every day I have to write something, whether it's sentence
I'll write
or
something
500
down.
words.
Yeah. And or even jotting down some ideas or what I used to do in driving the van on tour, especially if I was driving myself, like if I just drive me and the gear someplace and the band flies in, that was a great place to start to go over to do dialogue in your head. So I just recorded on my phone. And so I've been doing, if I don't actually sit down and write 500 words, then I'll record. I'll sort of play out a conversation on the phone, and I'll just try to contribute something to it every day. Yeah.
Right. So like sometimes you'll just like record like what a conversation sounds like, or you make up one.
I would make it up and just see how it plays out. I mean that's kind of the test of your writing anyway, right? Like you can write, but it's when you read it out loud when you're like, oh, is this really my voice or not?
Right.
People are searching for their voice, and that's the thing I hear most about my book. Like I can definitely tell this is you who wrote this book. Like,
right.
So yeah, sometimes I'll play out dialogue that way. Like I had a conversation. Now I don't speak Spanish but there in the book, Charlie and a person who's working the front desk of a shitty motel have a conversation, and they don't understand each other. So really, it's just Charlie's part of it that I was playing out on the recording.
Yeah, that is accentuated that's your voice by the fact that you have different narrators, because you still stay with the story
On the audiobook version.
Right, on the audiobook.
Yeah, that was I just figured that at the time it's like, well, you have to do an audiobook, or that's what we were told, and I just figured that that I should just call in a bunch of favors, because who's going to want to hear me read it? Although I do read the last one, but and it was fun. It was fun to get Dooley and Dave Alvin and Steve Earle and all my pals to
Duff McKagan
and
Lanigan.
yeah,
All the heavy hitters
and
from
some
Seattle.
and some folks I didn't know, like Greg was talking to Donald Logue and brought him in to read one. We've been pals ever since. Or Boone, from the Sons of Anarchy, he read one, and or Amy Mann. Like those are people
Mike
I didn't
McCready
really know.
was on there too, also Seattle.
I hate listing them because I'm going to forget somebody, and they're
Those
going to be mad.
Those are well, Amy Mann, you said, yeah.
So what?
Mark Maron.
Mark
That's
Maron,
a good one.
yeah.
Did you go on his podcast?
Dave Alvin was one of the early musical guests on there. So
Right.
yeah, and I've always been a fan. So.
Me too. I was on it once, a long time ago.
Last year.
Last long time. So what's the plan for how we get like refocused in these times? Because I have that same feeling, and I've had like some success with creative ventures as well. It hasn't been just like I'm like a blob on the couch. I mean, but I do know that malaise thing and that weird confusion of time. But like I'm asking this because my plan, I'm just moved to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And I'm planning on kind of like tomorrow starting in like a new
life,
a new regime, like give up the vape and start running again. I've only taken like 2 weeks off of running, but like,
let me ask you, did you have a podcast before the pandemic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just checking.
We started 2019, June.
This is like the 100 and what episode?
112, I think.
Yeah.
And we kept it running all throughout the pandemic. We banked a few prior to the pandemic, just randomly.
Because I was getting ready to go on tour with Dooley for 2.5 months.
Yeah, so we banked like 4 episodes, and then we dropped those once a week. And then in June, we kind of resumed when people felt comfortable sitting. We sat outside first, but we kept the quality. That was what was important to us.
And you're lucky you live in New York, so
Exactly.
you have access to interesting people, or at least a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a concentrated
It's
area.
been hard booking guests.
It would be hard if you lived in Seattle. I mean, you could run out of people much quicker.
Well, we've had a lot of comedians. The comedy scene in New York is
I saw
huge.
that. I was doing a little research my damn self.
Right.
It's a lot of comedy.
So what do we do to get rid of the melees? Because you wake up early, I heard, like 7 in the morning. Is that right?
and lately it's even been earlier.
Really?
But
I need to start. I want to start that. I want to get military like.
And I don't know. That's just something that happened naturally. I think it might. I don't know. Like some people say, it's just an old person thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really feel that old, but so I get up at 7, and I've turned into a runner since the pandemic started, just because there's for lack of anything else to do.
Right.
And no more gyms, so I got to figure out something. And then maybe I don't know if I feel like I have a rigorous schedule even when I'm not doing anything.
Right.
And far too much obsessing about politics.
I had to tune out.
There's nothing else going on but politics.
Right,
so you just sink into it. There's no choice.
That's a good. I mean, in what I do, like when I decide I'm going to write, like I'll just pick out a couple hours in the day and try to keep it consistent, and then turn off everything. Like I will just turn off the Wi-Fi signal. Like it's not even an option. And that way, if for some reason I'm overpowered by I got to get on Twitter, then I feel that proper sense of shame having gone back.
Right.
It within my allotted 2 hours of writing time or whatever I put.
Do you have a morning routine? Is it like get up and then go on a run and then write right away?
No, I write in the afternoon sometimes. Nothing. You're right. I need to get better. I need to get more stringent about that. More disciplined. That's what I don't have is discipline.
I need more discipline, dude.
So
I
is
totally
it
do.
Danny Bland's short and sneakers like on the run? Like I'm having a hard time picturing that over there.
I could see him as a runner.
I run.
with
I
the
don't.
braids and the
And
tats.
the
It
tats
looks
and the
cool
shorts
as hell.
and the sneakers.
Why
Well,
not?
I look more like
I've
the.
only seen him in this mode.
I look like the Unabomber more when I'm running, and I don't own any shorts at
Oh,
all.
okay. So you run with jeans.
I own several pair of shorts, and I'm proud of it.
I don't own any shorts. I've never heard a Beatles song in its entirety.
There we go.
So that could be a part of your test, like shorts or pants. And if anyone picks shorts, they're
No,
just
well, see,
Yeah.
no, because that's a test just for guys. You like
right. That's
I
true.
like, but I do have friends who wear shorts a lot, and it's just like, I need to get you some grown up pants. Let's get you in some grown up pants, huh?
Yeah. I remember when I was on tour with Peter Buck, I would wear shorts and he wouldn't even let me sound check in shorts. Like he wouldn't even let me sound check.
Wearing shorts on stages, that's unacceptable.
Except for if you're in the Grateful Dead and you're Bob Weir.
No, unless you're unless you're Angus Young, there's no
yeah.
excuse for wearing shorts
Really?
on stage. Period.
How about barefoot on stage? No. Big
about-
no.
Man, if we didn't have to socially distance, I would have jumped on you for saying that.
So who inspires you? Like writing wise.
I like Harry Crews a lot. I like Jerry Stahl quite a bit.
Permanent Midnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's written a bunch of books, but that's his first one. And but it's weird,
He looks a lot like Ben Stiller. I'm just kidding. That's a dumb joke. It's just anyway.
And my favorite book is this book called Coming Through Slaughter by Michael Ondaatje.
Coming Through Slaughter.
Yeah.
That sounds like my life recently.
It's a great book. It's a great New Orleans book. It's a great
Really?
music book. Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out.
I will send you one.
I need to start reading. That's the other thing.
Well, and that's hard to get back into because when
Yeah.
I was writing the novel, I didn't watch any TV and I didn't read any books because that's where I figured that's where my brain went, for leisure time. So
Yeah.
I had to eliminate that and just sort of concentrate on writing.
That's
And
so
I didn't
smart.
want to be influenced by anything.
Well, you also in that you reset your endorphins because you're not getting any endorphin hit from any of these easy ways, and then that makes you have to do the creative work to get the endorphin hit.
I'm so glad you pointed that out to me.
Because your brain must get the endorphin. So if you eliminate, that's the thing with discipline. If you eliminate the easy endorphin hits, whatever,
Then we gotta
porn,
strive for 'em.
TV, this, that, the other, then you have to strive harder and you create more.
I think in quarantine, like speaking of porn, like in quarantine, and I don't know if you've experienced this or if it's just me or any of your listeners, but I don't even go look at internet porn because I'm bored with it.
Right.
And I remember that feeling from when I worked at a porno shop, the same one that's in the book, In Case We Die.
Yeah.
I throw that in every once in a while so people can go look for it. That was and I was I was in my 20s at the time, and then and just having such easy access to it at a time when we didn't have it in our back pockets all
Right.
the time. Like I got bored of it. And
Right.
what a strange feeling. Something that something forbidden that you just totally sought out as a child, becoming bored of it all of a sudden.
Right. Something that's meant to spike your endorphins like nothing else.
Right.
When it no longer does that,
Where
you're
do you go?
truly, where do you go from there? You got to get religious, or not religious, but the only place to go from there is to discipline, is to the other extreme.
But not only are you right about the endorphins, but you're also making me think about how I have to restructure my life. you're moving to Brooklyn. You have to restructure. I'm going to go home tomorrow, and I have to restructure too, because I do feel like I'm wasting a lot of this precious quarantine time, and it's going to be over one of these days,
Right.
and I'm going to miss it.
Yeah. I know. I heard you say you're like secretly enjoying it to a degree, and I have felt
Well,
similar.
we both have said that.
I've felt
I loved
similarly,
it.
like some of it, you know.
It was just a gift all that time.
Yeah.
Depending on how you look at it, but it was a gift.
It is like I got lucky, as far as like people in the music business. Like I had been working so much for the last like 5 years before this happened, and so I've been on tour like probably 300 days a year for 4 or 5 years, and so I was making a bunch of money. I wasn't able to spend it, and I have a ridiculously low overhead. I don't have like a car payment, and I don't do a lot of grown up things.
Don't buy any shorts.
So yeah, I don't buy,
Seattle's expensive,
my
though.
my shorts. My short budget is almost nothing.
Rent in Seattle, though, isn't a joke.
Yeah,
But at that point, Seattle's not your home, really. At that point, when it's
It's
just some apartment you have your stuff in.
it's a nice place for my books to stay.
Right.
Yes, but so I had when this started, I had a grown-up size savings account, so I really wasn't worried. I figured I could do a few months, no problem. And then then the quarantine lifestyle was much cheaper than I even imagined. Like just not going out and doing things. All of a sudden, it's like, shit, I can stretch this out for years.
Right.
Right.
Cook for myself, and
So
I'm good.
yeah, so other than being like I like the isolation. I like being now after a few months, like, oh wait a minute, this is what lonely feels like. Okay.
Right.
All right. I reckon I've heard about this. People write songs about, when you're stuffed in a van or a tour bus or a plane with people all the time, you don't really feel lonely.
Right.
I mean, people say that like even in a crowded room, I was still lonely. I don't know. I don't know about that one.
That's why you don't get the Beatles.
Yeah.
That's
It's
funny.
that Lennon isolation.
Is that a Beatles lyric? Shit.
When did you get into tour managing? How did that happen? So you were like in the porn shop, went from porno to touring.
I was in a bunch of punk rock bands when I was a kid. So
Right.
Back to Seattle in the 80s, please.
well, this is in Phoenix, So and when I was in this band called Catbutt, when I first moved up to Seattle, we did a big tour with L7 in 1988, I think it was, where we both bands were stuffed into one of those airporter vans, and I realized I didn't even know it was a job, but I was a tour manager for all my bands and every tour I ever did, just because I was the responsible one.
What's your sign?
I'm a Leo.
Okay. I always think organized people are Virgos, so I was hoping you'd say Virgo, but
Well, I'm a real Leo, so I don't know about other people's signs.
okay.
Just my own.
Right. I don't know about Leos either. I'm a Libra. Same as John Lennon. So you were the most organized one, and so you started doing that.
Yeah, and I was passing out $2 or $3 or $4 in cigarette monies to everybody each day. I was passing out PDs before I knew what they were called.
Right.
And I was just the one who did it. And
what were you in the band?
For everybody
What instrument?
their PDs are per diems.
per diems.
Money per day.
I was generally a bass player,
Bass player,
and occasionally in the guitar player. When like in Caput, I was a guitar player, but and then I was playing in the Dwarves, and decided that I had I had made a bunch of records, and I had toured all over the world, and I had done everything that I wanted to do, and I was thinking about retiring, and then I realized that really my favorite part of going on tour was collecting money at the end of the night. So I figured, wait, this is my calling. I've just been a musician just so I could tour manage.
Right.
And then I was newly sober at the time. I'd been sober for I was sober the entire time I was in the Dwarves, but and I had some friends in a band called the Super Suckers that had a guitar player who suffered from a similar addiction as I did, and the idea is like, well, you come out and tour with us and show them how to
sober.
how to be sober. And I did that, and about a week into it, I got bored, and I started taking over all the tour managing duties because I had nothing else to do. And then by the time that tour was done, I was their manager. And so I managed a couple bands for a while that way.
That's cool. Did you stay sober the whole time?
Uh-huh.
No weed, nothing?
Nothing.
Wow. Amazing.
29 years.
And is that where you
Congratulations,
met Greg
dude.
in Seattle from that whole era?
I actually didn't meet Greg until much later. Like I got recommended to those guys to be their tour manager for the Gutter Twins, and we had never met until then. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we weren't old pals at the
I
time.
didn't know that.
And so,
Do you know Barrett Martin?
yeah, I do.
I just started doing a project with him.
He's a nut. Yeah.
I've never met him.
He's
It's
a
all
nut.
like remote. Like, they're sending me tracks and then I'm singing on it and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, nut in a good way. He is. When you find somebody who can talk or speak poetically about something, or passionately and poetic about something like he does about drums, that I find that fascinating. No matter what the subject is, if you find somebody who speaks that way, pardon my vocabulary, I lost it in quarantine.
Yeah. I've definitely become dumb.
Anybody who could speak to any subject passionately about it, like
he's just full of enthusiasm.
and so yeah, I find that fascinating. It makes him interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, enthusiasm, I think it means full of God or something, like in Latin. I don't know. Like it comes. I'm saying that wrong, but you know what I mean. Like,
wait, are we speaking Latin now? 'Cause
so it's good. Everything happens from enthusiasm.
Mhm.
So yeah.
And
at one point, he was like, "Excuse my enthusiasm." I'm like, "Dude, never." I love it. I think enthusiasm is a very important trait, especially for creativity. You need that. You need drive and you need enthusiasm to have that discipline.
I had so I was tour managing before I knew it was a job, and then I had a few years where I was working at the Experience Music Project in Seattle.
That's amazing.
The Rock and Roll Museum there.
I had a painting in there a couple times or something. Ann Powers was like
Yeah,
somebody who brought me into there.
and I worked in the producing the doing the production for the shows when they used to have shows.
There's a good little venue in there.
Yeah.
That's the Jimi Hendrix Museum in Seattle.
But it was one of those things, like it was a Paul Allen thing, so there was tons of money involved, and there was and the great thing about that place is they hired a lot of local musicians, so at least they put us bums to work, and they gave us insurance.
Then.
Yeah. So but eventually, as the budget started getting slashed, you realize like, oh, okay, I survived many rounds of layoffs, but I knew it was coming soon. And my buddy from the who manages X, the Knitters were going out on tour, and they needed a tour manager, so I got that job, and that was the first straight up tour managing job that I ever had. And Dave Albin's part of that group, and then since that tour was in 2004, and I've been Dave's tour manager ever since. So
that's great.
That's kind of how I segued into this part.
What's your favorite place to travel? Like Europe, or you like the States, or?
Well, I like both. I love the weird city. Like I love being in Amsterdam. And I love being in New Orleans. I like being in places that don't feel like America,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Amsterdam doesn't, but there is, the kind the kind of patience that you have to tour manage. That's that's another great thing about New Orleans. When we talk about it not being America, it's like if you're a tour manager and you're like me, where you can be like a schedule fascist or a schedule Nazi, like that's our job. We call them up and like, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's got to be ready then. Then you have to drop all of that shit when you go to New Orleans. Mm-hmm. You just have to forget about it because they're not going to do it anyway, and you just drive yourself insane.
Right.
And so I have to adjust my style for different places, and I love Spain for that reason, because they don't care about my blowhardiness demands. Mm-hmm. I love all the Denmark or any place in Holland, all those frozen fish eating countries. I love that shit.
Yeah, it breaks you out of your tightness or something.
Exactly. It pulls the board out of my ass.
Have you ever had long tours where it's been just a difficult person you've had to deal with, or is that every one of them?
That's actually none of them. I've been really lucky.
Really?
I have not had to tour manage an asshole ever. And mostly.
Well, you haven't gone on the road with me
Yeah,
yet.
you said it. I was holding my tongue.
Somebody
Be quiet.
I've been really.
I've tour managed him.
Oh man,
I've been real lucky. And a lot of times I get to manage when I was 17 years old, my favorite bands in the whole world were the Blasters and X, and so and I've tour managed both of them since then. And so,
and John reads on your book too,
yeah,
right?
John do. And I let's see, who are the biggest bunch of assholes I ever worked with? I did a tour, and I don't know if they were really assholes, but remember that band, the Hypnotics?
sounds familiar.
Nope.
But I don't really.
They were on Sub Pop for one record, mm-hmm. and they were big in Europe. And they were nothing in the States. And so I was driving around the States playing to nobody, and they just could not handle that.
It was brutal.
Yeah, they went.
Was
they
it
went
therapy
over
sessions
the edge.
in the van?
Oh God, yeah.
That's what I was getting at. You need psychology smarts to do that job, tour managing, don't you?
You're a therapist, you're a babysitter, you're a relationship counselor. See, that's probably where I developed those questions.
You're a fixer.
Yeah.
You gotta make things go away.
Exactly, and yeah, I'm all of those things. So,
but not biggest assholes. What was your dream? Who was a really big band, or did you not? You were thrilled to get the job.
Well, another one of my heroes, when I was, when I was 17 years old, I wanted to be Wayne Kramer from the MC5. And now that I'm, and when I was 50 years old, I still wanted to be Wayne Kramer. He's a different guy now, but right. I still idolize him. And I tour managed the MC5 last year, or for the last couple of years, actually, the MC50 with Kim Thayil playing guitar and Marcus Durant singing, who's amazing. And, Billy Gould and all those. It's Brandon Canty. What a crew! What an amazing band. And we traveled all over the world.
And as tour manager, are you front of house just watching the show, or you're not really at a certain point? I'm
on the side of the stage. I don't. A lot of tour managers, especially these days, like you work double duty. A lot of front of house guys or tour managers, and I don't have those skills. I'm just straight up tour manager, and so I usually act as a tour manager / security. So I'll be on the side of the stage waiting for some shit to go down. Right. That's how I spice up a tour. Once a tour, they'll be I might have to smack a guy, and that's my favorite.
And also to mention, with the Gutter Twins, they brought you on and you played guitar in one of the songs.
That's right. I needed to play guitar in one.
Right. Was that in the rider?
No, that was
for
not,
you.
No, not my choice. And I am not really a musician, although I've been in a lot of bands and I played on some records. I've learned Like I didn't know it at the time, but I've since learned that I'm not a musician because I've worked with lots of musicians, and I realized like I have no fucking idea what I'm doing.
What makes you not a musician? Like,
Because I don't know how to play.
but a lot of musicians don't know how to play.
So I'm a rock and roller.
That's
Yeah,
part
like
of
that's
it.
a punk
Punk
rocker.
rock.
Yeah, that's it. Like so I will accept that title, and a lot of times when if I'm doing an interview or someone wants to talk about books, they go, "Oh, you're a musician." Like, no. Now Dave Alvin's a musician, Wayne Kramer's a musician, not me.
So did you go on a book tour when the book was done?
Yeah.
Did you do all that and go to do readings and stuff like that?
Yeah, I did a reading here. I did a reading at
Brooklyn Court, right?
No, at Manitoba.
I did one at Manitoba's and
He
one
was here.
at a bookstore in
Brooklyn.
in Brooklyn. Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw it. I saw like an interview there or something.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
They film all those there.
Court Street, I think. That's where I just moved. Well, I shouldn't say.
Beep.
Where do you live now? Yeah, I did. Went up and down. I went down the West Coast, and I came up the East Coast, and I did a stop in Chicago.
So what was that like? Was that like a Charles Bukowski dream coming true, or what?
That was.
You know, I always think of him like just like going and being drunk at readings, and just he made it seem so sort of glamorous in a debauched punk rock way when you're a teenager.
Well, I was. It was funny because I did my first one in Seattle at the Sub Pop Silver anniversary party, and Greg read with me, and it was loud in there, and the sound system was shit, and I was terrified.
Right.
But I wasn't terrified. I wasn't like afraid of the crowd or afraid of reading or anything like that. It's just like I couldn't hear anything.
Right.
And it was bizarre. And then by the time I got to San Francisco after Portland, and I just started getting pretty good at it, you know. And then it's I imagine it's like doing like stand-up routine. Like you just learn where to pause.
Right.
But when I'm reading my book, there's funny parts, but then there's also really sad parts too. So, and that's the thing about being on that tour. Like you read, and then there's a line of people to sign your books, and the difference between making records and making books is that people, when they read your books, then they really feel a part of you. Mm-hmm. And when your book has a lot of sensitive subjects in there, like suicide and drug addiction and blah blah blah, then it can be an emotional thing. And like there was it happened a lot where people would come up and we'd start talking, and they'd just start crying because they had experienced someone in their life dying from suicide, and it would just be a big long hug, and so it was the fact that you had no idea what was coming at you, like the next person. Was it someone who was just going to get you to sign it? Did they think you were funny? Did they like you because you were in the Dwarves or whatever reason? And then all of a sudden you would just get this heavy vibe from somebody who was really touched by what you wrote. So
yeah, it's funny the way that art and like impersonal music does that too, where it's like it draws people in this really intense way, you know, and people, you know, they need to express themselves to other people and feel understood, and art and books can do that like nothing else.
Yeah, it's emotional because they connected with you, and you may have no idea that they even exist, but they're there in front of you right then, you know, and it's especially if you're talking about those kind of heavy subjects and people who lose loved ones to suicide or drugs, then and that often that's feelings that they keep inside a lot, and then they read and they relate to, and then they see you, and for some reason it just all comes out, and it's like it's a responsibility of, you know, for the writer too. Like you made them cry. You have to deal with them now.
Yeah, and nowadays too, I think like drug addiction and suicide is at an all-time high.
Yeah, that's what Yeah, I mean, I guess I can't. I was thinking about that early on, in the pandemic because I think about my junkie brothers and sisters, and I thought, man, if not being able to get toilet paper is an issue, imagine what it's like to get heroin right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like, I don't know. I'm not currently close with anyone who's actively in that addiction,
in that market.
But you can imagine it must be insane.
Yeah, and just the hopelessness of life droning on in this weird Twilight Zone episode. I don't know. Life is hard enough as it is, and also just like the fact that people don't have live music shows to go to and those kind of situations that like really are, I think, like spiritual medicine.
I was thinking about that today. I took a photo of Steve Earle and the band while they were playing this afternoon. That we were taping it, and I was going to post it on social media. And it's like, I felt like I was just bragging, like it was just too show offy. Like, hey, I saw a band play today.
That's
Fuck you guys, and I didn't do it because I was just like, it's just too.
That crossed my mind.
It's too
when
much.
I saw you doing that. I was like, is he gonna post it?
Well, I mean,
I don't think it is, though, personally. It's like, it is your life, and it's like people like to see, though it actually gives them a glimpse of it. I get where you're coming from, that it could come off like that, but
for some reason I felt that today when I was gonna post something like,
that's so funny because I was just singing on Jesse Malin's new record yesterday, and I took some photos of that, and then didn't post it because I felt like, oh, this is like, I don't want to like that same sort of vibe.
Yeah.
But then I just posted it right before I came here.
Yeah, I mean, and if it was something, that I was doing, I would probably do it more. But it was just sort of something that I was watching. I mean, I participate, but I don't know. It was something. There was something about it that just didn't feel right. And
that's interesting.
I think restraint with posting is good.
Yeah,
that to have that feeling, to acknowledge that maybe this doesn't need to go out right away is a good. I find that like a good feeling, like when you conquer that, and I'm not going to post.
Then I just don't know what to post though, because everything can be seen as like, this is my ego flexing. Like any time you express or exert yourself, there's a bit of an ego flex there.
I find that as long as I can maintain, as long as I have a sense of humor about it, then I can sort of flex like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, like when I got on Instagram, and really the reason why I did any social media was because I had a book to hustle back when, and I sort of planned it out. Like I said, okay, I'm gonna get on the Facebook, and then I'm gonna I'll wisecrack and I'll try to be charming, and then a year from now I'm gonna have this book, and I'm gonna go, hey, why don't you go buy this, guys? And and then I was a little late to Twitter, but Instagram, I was looking at that when I first okay, I got to get on Instagram. Let me see what this is about. And then I realized, well, okay, it's a bunch of teenage girls posting things, and so I jumped all over the established like Man Crush Monday and Woman Crush Wednesday. So I would post a Man Crush Monday every Monday, and I would post, and I still do Women Crush. And then I started, and then made up the Finger Friday one. So just someone or something having to do with the middle finger, and then
the guitar that
and
you
then
posted?
Sacrilege Sunday. So
the nipple with the Jesus in it. That shit's crazy. Yours is funny, dude. I will say that it is good. Follow him. What's the Danny Bland?
That's Mr. Danny Bland. And so
Dave Hill follows you. Shout out Dave Hill.
Now especially in pandemic times, the only reason I know what day it is because I have certain duties I have to perform on Instagram. Like
the other thing is, you're like, it literally kind of wrote two books for you too, social media in a way, because it was like, I'm going to do this haiku and post it, And I find it is good for that, like
Yes.
motivating creativity in a way. And
Well, yeah, and then when I was doing them once a day, then if I, like I said, after I didn't take a day off for 2.5 years, and then when I started taking the occasional day off, I would, I have these followers who give me shit like, "Hey, where's our fucking haiku, man?"
Right.
And nowadays, a few years ago, I started doing. I'd take an album. And then I would write, and why they're numbered now is because generally I would write a haiku for each song on this record. And then when I complete the series of 12 or 13, whatever, however many songs are on there, then I post all of them at the same time with the album cover. And so now it turns into a game. Like you have to try to figure out what album I'm currently haikuing.
I get it.
And occasionally people will guess, but and these days, I'm kind of super lazy. I'll do one like once every other day or maybe every 3 days. But I'll finish. I'll finish this record that I'm working on right now. I'm getting into, like I when I first started, I would just do all my favorite albums, and then I just take suggestions from other people because just to present me with some sort of challenge.
Do the White Album, maybe. No, I'm just joking.
Well, and people are aware of my Beatles
Disdain
phobia,
for the Beatles.
and so they request that all the time. And I'll say, just send me or occasionally I'll post first record that you send into my my direct messages. I'll do no Beatles and nothing related to Queens of the Stone Age, please.
Why not Queens of the Stone Age?
Well, there's, because then there's a million side projects attached to all of that stuff, and a lot of testosterone attached to that desert rock.
Yeah, you're not
And
into
I
it.
don't feel like it. Yeah.
We interviewed Dave Catching on the podcast.
See, he would be the exception to the rule.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Mojave Lords. Shout
we
out
went
Dave.
we went out there.
Yeah, we went to a studio.
Yeah.
And Lanigan, which is kind of Queens of the Stone Age for a minute.
For a minute, yeah.
Yeah.
I've done some Lanigan records on that.
Oh yeah, which one?
I did
Bubblegum.
I did Whiskey for the Holy Ghost. I think I did do Bubblegum. A bunch, yeah.
How long does a haiku take you?
Generally, it's especially when you're doing it for a song. Like I'll listen to it, and then or maybe sometimes I'll just read the lyric and I'd never want to do it exactly on the subject matter or have anything to do with I would never repeat a line from a song, but the interesting thing about songwriting is like you can look at a song and then try to figure out why they wrote this song, or maybe what was going on in their lives while they were writing this song, and come up with something interesting, or turn it back on yourself. Like what is, like if it's an album that I'm really familiar with, like what is, there's certain songs that just remind you of events in your life. So occasionally I will have a haiku that like, this doesn't make any sense at all with this song, but that's just what was going on in my life at the time. So
Right.
It's, again, there's
There's
no rules.
Do you have like any favorite haikus that you can read right now from memory?
No.
No? All right.
I mean, I'm sure I could pick out a few, but I haven't got any of them memorized.
Right.
I don't even have the one I posted yesterday memorized, so.
They're not that hard to memorize,
I
by the
know,
way.
but I
They're
just
only-
don't.
As far as writing a novel, since it was your first novel,
Yes.
how hard was it to get it published? Was somebody interested right away? Like, how was that process for you? Did the Dooley thing, taking photos of the first haiku book help? Like, where does the audience come for a first-time novelist?
Well, the novel was before the haiku books existed, so
Haiku was the second.
I thought it was haiku, novel,
No,
haiku.
novel, 2 haikus.
Okay. So even more relevant, the question.
I thought about it a lot. Like, I was determined to put a book out regardless of whether a publisher was interested or not. So that was the first thing. That was my thought while I was writing it, and I had saved some money up, and I was just going to put it out regardless. But then the more I thought about it, and the more as it came along, and I like, this is really good. I should probably send it out to some people. But I sort of focused on since it's such a Seattle book, and I sort of and I looked to what Seattle publishers there were, and Fantagraphics was really interesting because they're mostly known for graphic novels, but the thing about and the more I looked at their product is like I just loved their artwork. I thought their packaging was amazing. I knew they were right there in town, and and to me it just made sense. I figured if I could get this in front of somebody at Fantagraphics, and they just saw. And they saw the moment in time in Seattle that it captured, that they wouldn't be able to say no. Then I was working with this woman named Rachel Flotard, who is a musician in this band called Viz Queen, but she started managing artists. She started a family, and she didn't want to tour anymore, so she started managing artists. And she is a beloved Seattle person. Like, everybody loves her. I love her. And so I said, if I can get her to take this book in, then they'll probably look at it because everybody loves her.
Smart.
Because if I go in there, I'm gruesome. I'm not likable at all. I would hand it to him, and it would be in the corner somewhere, gathering dust. So I'm going to have.
So she was like your
Rachel
book agent, basically.
Yeah, she was my book pimp, and she took it in there, and she's a hell of a salesman as well. And they read it, and gave me the thumbs up.
Nice.
It's an infuriating little story for a lot of writers because I know it's a lot to get a book published, and
And who did you send chapters to read and give you feedback on?
I sent them to, that's actually how Rachel got involved. I sent them to her because she is a insanely nice person too, and I wanted to make sure that it wasn't too disgusting what I was writing. So I wanted. I wanted it to be filthy, but not grotesquely pornographic.
Right.
So, and there's a fine line in there, and I think I straddled it well. Like it's
definitely that second chapter that Dooley reads is a good example of that.
And that's the thing. And you want to you have to figure out who you're. Like anybody else, like who your demographic is, who are you writing this for? And I'm definitely not writing it for other middle-aged ex-junkies because we don't buy books. But and I figured the audience would be these rock and roll, or these ex-rock and roll chicks, and how, and it just made it, when I imagined that as an audience while I was writing, it gave Charlie substance, right? Like he is many, many faults, but lovable somehow all in there. And so I sent them to Rachel, and I sent some to Greg to read, and it just varies so I could get some feedback, because like I said, first time book, and a lot like social media, it's like I wanted some input, and wanted
an enthusiasm.
I wanted some positive feedback.
Yeah.
And that sending it to your friends is not really fair because they're going to give you positive feedback, but they'll also point out the things that are dumb. And so, that's how I did it. And I had friends who would help me edit it along the way. So by the time it was delivered to Fantagraphics, it was basically done. They sent it to their person who corrects grammar. But even the editing process, like almost they had a handful of things they wanted to change, and I went in there and presented a case why they shouldn't. And
what did they want to change?
Well, I have some run-on sentences in there that are purposeful.
Right, like it's style.
Yeah, because if you're writing as someone who's loaded, then that's the way the sentence should appear, I think. So
right.
So and I'm a fan of the run-on sentence.
So are they on board for the follow-up, or would you reshop it?
I don't know. I like I said, I love the packaging. I love everything they did, and I definitely would. But I don't. By the time the way the world changing, the way publishing is changing, I don't know what it's going to be like by the time I'm done with it. So I'm trying not to think about too far ahead. And I did that. I did it with the first book too. Like I didn't think about an audiobook or asking all my friends to read it until after I was done, because all that stuff is just going to clog up my brain and I won't be able to write anymore. So I don't think about marketing just yet.
When it came out, did you get good reviews, and what was that like reading that kind of stuff?
It was great. I think I got I got one really shitty review from some paper in Seattle.
Really?
And
there's always one.
Seattle of all places.
Well, no, it's because it's hard to be like a hero in your own town, or whatever they say. That there's a quote there or something. But.
And that was hurtful and weird at the same time, because it was so over the top. Like, it was so over the top hateful that I was like, this guy just hates me. I don't.
Right.
What did I do?
When it's way over the top, it's less painful.
Personal.
Yeah.
It's less painful than when it's just kind of like a mediocre review. Like when somebody goes in and it's like 0 star. I got a 0 star review once. I swear to God. I got a 0 star review once. It was the only one too. Like other ones were like 3, 4 stars. I had a 0 star. And it was so
For
great.
which album?
Graduation ceremony.
Really?
Yeah.
That one?
Which is a really
Oh
good
my
album.
God.
It's like
That was personal.
right. Like when it's like I was like, you went too far, dude. Because it's like you should have given me a 2-star review or something. That would have hurt. But 0 stars, it's like you got a vendetta.
And this guy, the guy who wrote that one, even somewhere in, I read it one time. It's not like I didn't obsess about it, but somewhere in the review, he actually called me ugly, which
really, you're not,
which
ugly.
Is debatable, but
it's definitely debatable. You're handsome,
but
maybe it's like an ex-girlfriend in disguise.
But I thought,
what
man,
does that have to do with it?
Once I read, and I did like, okay, who is this guy? Let me find out a little. But I didn't really obsess any more than that. But
Danny, his breath smells. He doesn't brush his teeth in the morning.
And you can tell that from the words.
Right.
Right. That's funny.
You can hardly see my face at all in the author picture. I can't believe.
So, but when this was happening and your book was published and all that, were you like going like, I can't believe I pulled this off? I manifested this?
Absolutely, yeah.
That's such a big dream for so many of us.
It was, and I was, and I've been I'm a stuck-up snobby book collector. Like, all my books are like hardbacks and first editions and all this other stuff. And that was one of the things that when I went to Fantagraphics too, I said it has to come out in hardback. Like, I must have a hardback, and I'll pay for
one copy
for that to happen. But and they did a beautiful job with it. But so yeah, it's unbelievable when you crack open that. I mean, because when you crack open that box with your books in it, it's just insane. And I had a copy of it shipped out to somewhere where I was on tour, and I just remember opening it up, just going, Jesus, this is it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's
What a feeling.
amazing.
This is good motivation for us to turn it around on Monday. We're on a Sunday night right now.
I need that
It's
feeling
like,
again. Yeah,
I need that feeling.
I'll be flying all day tomorrow, so you turn it around tomorrow. I'll turn it around Tuesday.
Was this your first flight since the pandemic?
No, I flew out here to do. We made the JT record here, so at Electric Ladies. So
Yeah.
I flew out and did that. Actually, I flew down to Nashville, drove all the gear up here, and then we made the record for 10 days, and then I turned around, drove it back to Nashville, flew home. But yeah, not nearly the amount of flights as I used to take, or traveling.
Do you know this guy, Carl Ove Nosgard, who wrote these like 6 books called My Struggle or Mein Kampf or whatever? Like,
No.
you don't know this guy?
What is that?
Come on, Danny.
Well,
dig deep.
Carl Ove Nosgard. He writes this intense memoirs that are like 600, 700, 800 pages each, and there was like 6, 7 volumes of them.
That sounds exhausting.
It is, but
When did he write these books?
I don't know if you like. I'm bad with time. Like I don't know.
Last year.
Recently,
So-
Everything's last year.
like
In the last 10 years.
last 10 years.
So he
And he's like Norwegian, yeah. And he called it Mein Kampf or whatever. And they were like a huge hit. Like he became a superstar basically.
Is there more
like
water around?
over there in wherever in Norway or wherever. I think it's Norway.
Is he in a death metal band or?
I don't think so. No, but he's an interesting writer.
Is it black metal in Sweden?
I think you might get a kick out of it. It's this wild, methodical, like every detail, but something about it. If you get into the flow of it, it's really like it really takes you in.
There is something to that, and I found that the devil in the details is it for writing for me, and I think that's what makes my book feel authentic. That's why people don't really ever ask if it's true or not. Mm-hmm. They're like, they just assume that it is because of the gory details. So
devil's in the details. So
yeah.
What do you mean by that? Just keen,
and if you're talking about his book and in the mythical, in the detail of it all, like I can't remember. I read. I can't remember the author right now, but I read a book where it opens up and he's the character, the main character is sitting, or the only character is sitting in a prison cell, and he's describing a drop of sweat falling off of his forehead. Mm-hmm. And it takes an entire chapter before it hits the ground. Right. Somehow he made that interesting, and I don't aspire to that much detail, but when I write something, I go back and look at it and go, how can I make this feel more like just I need more details.
More details.
Like, what did this smell like? What did on and on and on, and that's. Right. That's how you flush that shit out.
Did you take like writing courses or anything like that, or just from your own reading and writing?
I am
self-taught,
uneducated.
Do you do morning pages? You ever heard of that? The Artist's Way?
No.
Where you just wake up and you write 3 pages first thing in the morning.
No. Does that happen before coffee? That's insane talk.
No, it does. Nothing happens before coffee.
No, someone gave me a copy of The Artist's Way, and I never read it. I don't have higher learning. I didn't go to college or anything.
Neither did I.
So really, just
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I just I feel like if you, everybody has an interesting story. Maybe not their entire life is interesting, but you can, if you have any older friends, and maybe maybe you think like, I'm friends with this nice old couple, and then the more you get to know them, the details of their youth
their kinky life
or
comes
the
out.
crazy shit that they've done in their time.
Yeah.
So everybody has an interesting story.
Yeah, that reminds me of the Louis C.K. bit where he's like talks about like you don't really know your mom, like
exactly.
but like it's like. Well, I was 22, and then 35 years later or something, I married your dad, but there was this whole stretch of time between, like, what?
A bunch of dicks in the middle.
Yeah. That's the bit.
That's the time that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
To me, that is where your book lies.
Well, I guess the challenge is being brave enough to write your life.
Or being vulnerable enough to talk about the parts that hurt.
Right.
Or some of the things that are not flattering,
Yeah.
like like I said, for Charlie in the book, like he is lovable in spite of himself, and there's all sorts of detail there. I mean, people have asked me like, about what's true in the book, and you'll say, well, let's say 90% of it's true. Well, the whole thing's true. 90%, say 95% of it happened to me, and I've stolen a couple of other people's stories. That's a good way of getting out of being in trouble for any details that are in your book too, because you can go, oh, that was somebody else. But the being able to, I mean, it's easy to talk about the cool rock and roll stuff you've done, but it's the times that you were miserable, that and somebody needs to hear about those times because somebody's going through it.
Right. Yeah, that's another thing social media does teach you. It's like when you do get brave enough to express something authentic in yourself, especially if it is a struggle or something, the amount of people that need that or appreciate that. And then I'm the same way. Like if I'm going through a really dark time, I'll go on like YouTube and check out people talking about whatever situation I'm in, narc videos, and it helps, man. It really does.
It does, and that is the interesting thing about writing haiku on. Because most of my social media is all wisecracks. It's all stupid shit, and it's being funny. Then I will, and some haiku are too. But occasionally I'll toss one that will rip your fucking heart out.
Right.
And and it's a weird, it's a weird thing for the casual observer to see. They're like, Satan and dick jokes, and then all of a sudden, like, oh,
something from the heart.
Yeah. It keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
And in that particular form of poetry, it's so short and can, a lot of people take different meaning from it that I didn't even intend, right? Because it's vague, because it has to be vague sometimes. Open. Yeah. And even I'll admit that occasionally I throw a piece of shit on there. Just because I ran out of time, but regardless,
sometimes there's 8 words.
Sometimes
do you ever break that rule?
No,
never.
I never break that.
I knew you were going to say that.
I never break the rules, but occasionally I'll put one up there that I'm not really all that proud of, and then but I'll always get a note saying that's my favorite one ever.
Isn't that funny?
That one, that's what I needed to hear.
Yeah,
and I just go, I didn't say a goddamn thing. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But
when I was like checking out some of your stuff too, I heard you say that like haiku's actually the sort of was supposed to be the poetry form for the common man.
Right.
Isn't that interesting? Because I've always thought of it as like, even like hearing haiku, you're like, ooh, that's the one you can't do. Like you need to know something.
Well, I mean, that was the original intention. That's what the Japanese masters are so proud of.
Right.
But
that it's for everybody.
That is, yeah. That you don't. I mean, for how and again, this is exposing my ignorance of the form that I'm supposed to be so good at. I don't know shit about it.
Right.
But I do. I've heard a few things.
Yeah. The power of vulnerability.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. What the hell was that?
That's funny though, because of the way you sort of summed it up. I thought that was the outro music. All of a sudden playing. It's like, oh well, great.
Yeah.
I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for checking out Come to Where I'm From podcast.
How long have we been going?
90 minutes.
Oh, it was an hour and a half.
Give or take.
Damn. What time's your flight tomorrow?
Not till 5.
What do you like? What's your favorite thing to do in New York?
There's nothing to do in New York.
Well,
I mean, like,
see, but my
city.
favorite thing is just walking around. So
That's what I
that still
thought.
exists. You
Yeah.
know, like just walking.
the
I do it all
best.
the time with no agenda at all. Like just start walking in this direction, and then all of a sudden, you know, like, hey, I'm walking past this. This is a club that Dylan played at, and just all these. You know, I mean, you're walking around New York City. You're going to find something interesting.
Yeah.
Or maybe killed. I don't know.
Nah.
Not anymore.
Well, maybe it's gotten a little bit spookier.
Not in these parts of the woods.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Really
So glad it worked out.
inspired to. You've added extra fuel. I was already going to get my shit together starting tomorrow, but now I'm like also going to write.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm gonna check up on you. So,
All right,
you know,
good.
if you don't have your shit together by this time next week,
Next time.
Oh,
we're
it's
in
going to
town.
be together.
You're gonna
man.
hear
I'm going to
about
have
it.
shorts on every morning.
you're running.
Fucking running through Brooklyn. Yeah.
Danny Bland in shorts. I'm sure there was a period you were in shorts running, but you know.
Nope.
Never. Any final questions?
No, just tell people who might not know where to get your books where they could get your books.
Well, you
Other than the $970 one on Amazon.
you don't want that one. You can go to In Case We Die is on Fantagraphics, so you can go to Amazon or you can go to fantagraphics.com,
Regular price.
regular price, and then
Common folk price.
Then I apologize in advance for the awful things I'm going to do. Is that was Sub Pop put that out, and so you might be able to go to their website and still find one. And then my latest is called We Shouldn't Be Doing This, and you can find that on the revolutionartshop.com.
Nice.
Nice. Do you ever think about like doing a collaboration with musicians where you read haikus and do like a recording that way with your? Because you do have a great voice, actually.
Thank you. I did. What did I do? Steve, you know who Steve Fisk is?
Yeah, I know the
Producer and musician in Seattle. When In Case We Die first came out, I did a thing with him and his band at Bumbershoot, where I just read a chapter and he just improv
Improvised,
behind
yeah.
it. And it
That
was
works
pretty
well.
great. Yeah, it would. I mean, it's nothing I'd want to take on tour because I think it could be hit or miss, and I happened to hit it that one time, so maybe I should just leave it at that.
Right. Do you like any of the beats, or do you like Kerouac or any of that kind of stuff?
I like Ginsberg a little more than Kerouac.
This is a test, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, this is my test.
Well, I feel the same. I feel the same
We're
way.
gonna have some hot sex tonight, Danny.
I feel the
By
same.
that
I was hoping you would say Ginsberg.
I feel the same way with Kerouac as I do with the Queens of the Stone Age. There's just something a little too testosterone-y about the whole thing, and you know, I liked it when I was a kid.
Right.
But reading it again later on, I was like, I'll go for your Lawrence Ferlinghetti's or your Allen Ginsberg. I like it a little more gay.
Yeah, Coney Island of the Mind.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, Kerouac had the gay side, I think. But I don't know. What about Bukowski?
I like, the thing about Bukowski is there is
Ham on Rye is good.
well, there's like 4 different
Bukowski
versions of them. Like I
Right.
like the young suicidal one.
Right.
Like I like the rooming house mandigles part, or and then later on, some of the books are just like got up, I took a shit, I went to the racetrack, fucked this chick,
And drank a beer.
Yeah, there you go. I was like, okay,
The end.
that's fine, but
Yeah.
but who else was I was thinking of? Oh, I like Barry Gifford a lot. He wrote Wild at Heart.
Uh-huh.
And I like his books because they really and if I get off my lazy ass and finish this, it's sort of the same thing where you have recurring characters throughout a series of books. I like the way he did that, and somebody else, I don't know.
Ever read Newt Hampson?
I have, yeah.
That one, it's called Hunger.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intense book.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Poppy's gonna name every single book he's read now. You ever heard of?
That's it. That's the end of the list. All right, y'all.
Thank you,
We'll
Danny.
wrap it up. See you guys later. Thanks for tuning
Have
in.
a safe flight, Danny.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Hi, this is Joseph Arthur. Thanks for checking out Come to Where I'm From. Please support us on Patreon, patreon.com/come to where I'm from. We are an independent podcast, and any contributions you can make are greatly appreciated.